Hello to everybody. Welcome again. Now we will have my favorite panel, if I can say, the woman in mining. This session was the new one from the last year, and it was really a big pleasure for me that we have this topic again this year as well. And now I will say just the full title of this topic. It's Women in Mining, How Women Manage to Solve Challenges. Today we have 4 fabulous ladies who will give you all their inputs in this topic, and they are very successful ladies in mining and geology, and now they will share their own experience with you as well. So I would like to introduce Ms. Jasmina Stanimirovic, Chief Technical Officer RONI in UK, who will be a moderator of this panel. Jasmina, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Jagoda. Good afternoon, everybody. I do hope so, as we are the last panel today, and after 2 days, that some of you are still going to be joining us. It is really great pleasure to have a woman in mining. However, I would like to see in a few years' time, no need to have like a woman in mining panel, which actually is supposed to be something which is going to be accepted standard for the mining industry. I would like just to tell you a few sentences about myself first before I introduce my panel today. I'm a geologist by training. I'm Serbian born from Belgrade, and I studied at Mining and Geological University in Belgrade years ago. Even then, the ladies didn't actually shy from studying same subjects. Same subjects, I mean, actually that's science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. So what actually I would like to talk about today is unconscious bias. Why all those graduates and all those women, even many years ago, when we didn't have a problem or major problem having a female study those interesting subjects, what happened to all those ladies after they actually graduate and after actually they're working as a graduates, and what is happening in their careers later on when they actually come to the management, and why there's so few women in the management today. I would like with this to give a floor to actually today to Milica Bozovic. Milica, please.
Thank you, Jasmina. I will just say Bozovic Maric. My husband will be very, very offended because you missed out his last name. Hello, everyone. Let me share my presentation with you. I'm a director of ILS Serbia since 2018. I will tell you something more about the company I work for. This is a prep laboratory of ALS opened in Serbia in 2013. I finished the PhD in Mainz, Germany. My field of expertise is petrology and geochemistry of the Balkan ophiolites. And as Jasmina, I finished my basic studies in petrology and geochemistry in Belgrade, Serbia. I fell in love with geology when I was in high school, and I have to admit my parents were very much against me studying something which is perceived as male's occupation, and they even hired a friend of theirs to talk me out of continuing studying geology. He quit doing so when I was enrolling in my 3rd year of studies, and I was actually the only one to enroll successfully that year. Out of 15 of my colleagues, I was the only one. He then dropped the agenda. So I work for ALS. ALS is a global leader in providing laboratory testing, inspection, certification, and verification. I work for the geochemistry division. Globally, we employ over 15,000 staff on more than 350 locations in more than 65 countries. The business model we operate under is a hub and spoke model. What does it actually mean? We have a lot of prep laboratories over the world, which are feeding our analytical centers with samples. Our prep lab in Bor was opened in late 2013 to serve one big project here in Bor. We have grown from 5 employees to currently 22. The maximum we had was 27. It's not really a season at the moment in geology and mining. That's why we are 22 now. 17 of us is permanently employed, and I'm proud to say that today we employ 7 women in my laboratory. Just to give you a picture how much we actually do or process in Bor. Since we opened the lab, we have processed close to 500,000 samples. We offer a safe environment. Safety is first in ALS, while we deliver the best quality and turnaround time on the market. If you would like to get some more info about our lab, just contact us here at you see the email. That would be all for now. I guess we will continue with the discussion later with some Q&A. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Milica. We are going to be having a few questions later after each panelist introduces herself. And I would really encourage, hopefully we are going to have some audience, and I would really encourage few questions to be submitted as soon as possible so we can have more interesting conversation so far. I would like to give a floor now to Sanja. I cannot see Sanja. Sanja, are you with us?
It's an honor to be at the conference related to the job that I'm doing. My name is Sanja Prvulovic. I'm a general manager of Reflex Drilling, a drilling company located in Serbia, Europe, for someone who doesn't know where Serbia is. I'm coming from an old mining town called Bor, which is probably, which everyone probably knows where is it, from the greatest discoveries that have found, like Čukaru discovered in 2012 from Reservoir Minerals and Freeport-McMoRan. Some of the investing companies in the area are Dundee Precious Metals, Fundoro, Rio Tinto, Zijin Mining. I have started in the industry in 2006 in the jobs that actually were run by men before, like fuel deliveries on site, supplies and logistics to the drill rigs, client communication, organizations, employee rosters, and actually like my job because of the dynamic tendency that it has. I worked until 2009, then I moved on to Africa, got a better opportunity, worked in Morocco and Ghana as a general manager of a drilling company. In 2014, I moved on to Australian mud company, trained for a mud engineer, traveled all around the world, training different drilling companies how to use their drilling muds. So it gave me an opportunity to look into drilling industry from both sides, from a side of a client and a side of supplier. So in 2017, I came back to my home country, my hometown Bor, and I started my own drilling company, which is successfully running up to date. So I don't know what else to say. It's something different from the other ladies because I actually didn't finish the school for a driller or for a job that I'm doing. It only came because the tendency that you have in this country, in Bor, actually, it's an old mining town. So there was an opportunity that I got. So there I am. I don't know what else to say.
Okay, that's a great introduction. Thank you so much. Belinda, floor is yours.
And I love Sanja's story. Just to actually be able to run and manage your own company, I think, is an incredible achievement. So here we go. My next incredible achievement as I share my screen. So thank you, Jasmina and Yagida. This has certainly been an interesting couple of days in terms of what is going on in Serbia, and I think it'll be great for me to share how does my role now actually interact and
Belinda, sorry.
Yeah.
Belinda, sorry for interruption. Just to tell you, you are sharing the wrong screen. You need to change.
Thank you.
Welcome.
So yes, thanks again. I will just the same as the other ladies, just give a brief overview of my role as a woman in mining. And where I'm at today, I'm with Orica. I have been for the last 4 years, and I'll just like Milica and Sanja, I'll just talk a little bit about of what that role is. I hope to share with you just the journey that has been from when I started. We've talked a little bit about cadetships. I started in 1990 as a chemical engineering cadet with BHP. And did 7 years of study. I then moved into operations roles in steel manufacturing and aluminium manufacturing, and then into ASEANO, another ASX-listed organisation in Australia, which was around logistics and rail, and also stevedoring, so from the whole pit to port. I then moved into Orica probably about 4 years ago, and Orica has meant that I have a general manager role with customer exposure, quite a broad team, and the industry that I work in is then connected with regards to blasting services and the manufacturing of explosives. So 30 years on, I managed to complete my master's through that time, and now I'm over looking after the Europe organisation, which consists of about 2,500 customers, some of which who have been a part of this conference for the last 2 days, which is really great to see. So we're talking about Dundee Precious Metals and our work in Bulgaria. My team are spread across 9 countries across Europe, which brings an absolutely fantastic diversity of cultures that I'm working with. And my team consists of about 200 people across those countries. And it touches on underground operations in open cut quarries and construction. So it's a little bit about my journey. For those, I think you've seen some ads throughout the last couple of days about what Orica is. So we are a global manufacturer and supplier of commercial explosives and blasting services. It's a company that's Australian-based, has gone global and has over 145 years of experience and 12,500 employees. And our customers, although I look after 9 countries, our customers extend to over 100 countries. So women in Orica, I think the last 30 years, my role and as a woman in some of those organisations, I've been maybe 1 of, maybe 3 of, or but typically, we are sort of still in about that 18% of women in Orica. We sit at about 1 in 4 senior leaders at Orica are women, and we do have women that are represented amongst all of our professions within Orica. When we get to the very edges of our organisation and we look at some of our work groups, then yes, we still have, underrepresentation, and so it is a constant dialogue about how we can get more women into our organisation and through our organisation. And I think, Jasmina, when this topic came up, Certainly for us on this panel, we're very interested in this conversation and how we can actually get more representation. Thank you.
Good, thank you, Belinda. Can I please ask you to stop sharing the screen?
Mm-hmm.
And then I would like actually to ask first Sanja, you are going to the field all the time. So what are your challenges? And can you tell us a few stories about?
I just wanted to say that I'm working in the field for the last almost 15 years. And from the day one, I was in the field. I never was in the office and I did administration. So it was basically half in the field, half in the office. The most challenging situations are when you have to do a job that actually men are doing. If the first years have been harder than the last years, let's say, because of the country and the men. I can say Serbia was more, how can I say that? Didn't use a woman in the mining or in a field or in the jobs like a drilling project. So if I had to transfer or give a job to a man, they would expect me to do the same one and do for them so that I can represent it and then they can do it. So maybe that is one of the challenges that I had at the beginning. So if I have to say to someone that he has to dig the sump, I have to dig it myself before he can take and do it himself on himself. So not so much challenging moving to Africa. I think the people over there got used and women in mining. And maybe Serbia was one of the challenging ones. Any other questions?
Good, thank you. For now, I would like to ask Milica a few questions, please. What are it's a completely different environment you're working at. You're working at the lab. Sanja is working outside in the field, which is much more challenging, I think. So can you tell us some story about what are your challenges, experiences working at the lab?
I used to work actually as a field geologist. So I started my, let's say, career in industry as a field geologist. It was very short. ALS told me soon after that. I spoke with a few friends of mine who actually work in geology and mining, and I asked them if they would like me to tackle some perspectives of what is challenging. And mostly the problem for women working in the field is how to balance private and professional life, especially when children come. So it's very, very challenging for them. Sometimes they have to leave their houses, work in some remote areas and leave their children to be taken care of by either husbands. It's very challenging for single moms to do so. If kids are sick, and recently a friend of mine had to leave to Bosnia, and her kid was he's like a year and something old. He was sick, so it's very, very challenging. But it's something that you need to do, and simply you get used to it. We are all pretty ambitious, and none of us ever wanted to, be stay-at-home moms. But it's not easy. For me, it's definitely easier because, I should have a 8 to 4 job, but I do work a bit more than that. But I am in the office, and I do come home every evening. It's not. It hasn't always been easy to be seen as a leader. I told you the story when a guy came to ask for a job for his son. It turns out this guy he is actually a professor in one of the high schools here in Bor, and he wanted to talk to someone who is in charge. And I kept on saying to him, well, I'm the lab manager. You can talk to me. Tell me what would you like to talk about? Until he finally said, well, I would like to talk to a man. And I said, well, my director sits in Izmir. At that time, my director sat in Izmir, and he was visiting the lab only a couple of times a year. So I'm the best you will get. I'm more than qualified to answer any of your questions. And he was a bit shocked because he simply expected to see a man doing actually crushing, pulverizing, and so on. As Sanja said, Serbia is a conservative country. It's been better than it used to be, but we still are a conservative society, and it's always a pleasure to see more women being involved in the mining industry. It's not easy. Thanks.
Okay, good. Thank you. As I said earlier, in Serbia, education is not the problem. The problem is later, at the later stage of career, and unconscious bias and actually expectancy that women cannot do certain jobs. So with that in mind, I would actually like to ask Belinda, who is actually representing women when development and promotions are discussed, when less than 1% on average are women in a direct line management?
Thank you, Jasmina. So I think an interesting question. So, who is representing women when it comes to development and promotion? I think there's a couple of ways of answering that, really. When I think about promotions in the organisation, then if they happen quite in a traditional way where people have just known other people within the industry, and there's a tendency to maybe promote or recruit from people that you know. And when we think about the environment that we're in, that is more often than not a male colleague, just because of we're talking about very low numbers, or in our case, it might be 18%. So it actually means that I think for organisations that want to have a greater diversity and to tackle unconscious bias, which is what we're talking about today, the conversations around promotion and development need to happen in the room. So there needs to be, I always think there needs to be structure, there needs to be systems, so that then you can actually have a look about, what are we doing around identifying talent? What are we doing around succession planning? And then you can actually openly see, are we actually identifying any women in our organisation? And if not, why not? And who is representing that conversation actually requires someone in the room to create that dialogue. I think in some circumstances we might leave that conversation for HR to have or bring in to actually challenge talent identification, challenge development plans, challenge succession. But if that's not there, somebody needs to represent a conversation, represent women, want gender diversity, and actually maybe challenge some of the stereotypes or assumptions that are being made. I think Milica talks about a point that, and I have experienced that myself, along my career, when I shifted into operations. I remember I had a conversation with a manager that I was working for in another mill. And I said, I think there's the operations superintendent role is available. And he said, I didn't think you would be interested because you have young children. And so when you think about that, he is someone in that room. He is someone who would be thinking about who can be in this role. And if he is actually thinking that I'm not interested, that's an assumption that can, potentially carve me out of that conversation. So I think, that didn't happen because, for me, it's been really important around putting my aspirations out there, finding a support network that supports my aspirations. I've got children now that are 21, 23. So, my family support was there to be able to, have a career like I have today, and to be able to balance and juggle, and maybe successfully and unsuccessfully sometimes. But yeah, I think we need someone in the room to represent women, and those that are in the room need to be aware enough to be able to bring a dialogue around talent and development.
Okay, great. If you don't mind, I've got one more question for you. Global research says that reducing and eliminating unconscious bias is one of the levers for organizations to increase diversity and hence unlock performance of up to 20%. This is a huge economical gain. So why the management, or men in this case, they don't even actually want to think about, how can we really sort of increase 20% of our production, or whatever, actually the performance, even actually to look from that actually side.
So Jasmina, I think if I go back, the research has been around for a long time, and I remember paying particular attention to that in around about 2008. Where I found an article that said organisations that had a greater representation of females on their executive team, there was a relationship with the financial performance. And at that time, it was talking about 10%, and I've seen that grow to up to now research saying, 20%. And believe me, if I could get 20% EBIT, and that is something that has stuck in the back of my mind around, I have to get diversity right. I have to get innovative thinking, and to be able to deliver a shift in performance. That is part of what I need. So I think a lot of organisations are really getting it. It's coming. That communication is coming over and over and over and over again. And so for an organisation to be blind to that, and it will still be there, but that is something that will set them back. So innovative organisations that are going to move faster are going to encourage that diversity of thought, and but you have to have that step change around addressing things such as unconscious bias, and challenging the very dynamics of your leadership team and operational roles in the field. So hopefully that answers that question, Jasmine. I'd just say, how does unconscious bias link to that? There's a lot about unconscious bias training, and there's probably just as much information around that not being of value. My personal view and experience is, when you're in an organisation that lives and breathes its values, and respect is one of those typically, and teamwork is another in an organisation. When you really feel that and you're connected to the organisation, you're empowered to do things differently. There's different conversations. People are more aware of where women want to go in the organisation, and it's a more supportive environment to get there and remove barriers. So I think, unconscious bias training, living your values in an organisation, and a measure of employees that are engaged I tend to go this way.
Thank you, Belinda. It is actually great, and lots of mining companies are doing a lot of training, lots of talk. But unfortunately, in practice, we don't see that as much. Another actually global research is actually showing that the boardroom representation globally is less than 10%. And then only less than that is women. Out of those, less than 1% on board are women who are coming from a technical background. So it shows that almost all this talk is non-existent in practice. So there's lots of work to be done. I would like actually there's a few questions coming from the audience, and I would like actually to read. There's one saying, my experience working underground with our drillers is that I had to show myself working like one of them to make them respect me. I felt they were questioning my authority and ability more than they would have a male colleague. How was your experience? Maybe actually, Sanja?
Well, I had few experiences like that. Yes, I did felt on few occasions that my authority was questioned. I got different challenges with the drillers on site, questioning if I actually know what they are talking about, if I know the job that I'm doing, am I qualified for it? Specific task was if there was a breakdown on the rig, and I had actually to help them out, identify local suppliers or mechanicals that can actually fix that part. So I would actually have to know what is the part, what is the how I can supply a different one or a fixing that one. So I think that I managed most of it, but it was a really great challenge doing it, that one. And I want to mention another challenge was what Milica mentioned is I also have a boy, 10 years old, and he was without a mom from the beginning. When I was pregnant, I was without a job. I was actually falling down, meaning that no one will accept me pregnant to continue my career and do the job that I'm doing. And actually, I was wrong. In the 4th month pregnancy, I traveled to Morocco. I worked until the 8th-month pregnancy, came back, got the baby, and with the 3 months baby, I flew again and continued working. So yes, my boy was most of the time without me, but he's big now. Mom is at home, and as Milica mentioned, I go home every night, maybe at midnight, maybe at 11 o'clock in the night. But I enjoy my job. Actually, every woman should be proud to be a part of our mining industry.
Well, that is great. We've got one more comment. Although Serbia might be a conservative country, my impression there is that there are more women in technical jobs and easier accepted than for example, in Germany. That is very interesting to know, which is very good. I'm proud of my country. What is your perception of visibility of women in mining roles in Serbia? What opportunities are there to help attract more women into the mining industry and STEM? So maybe Milica can...
I have to disagree that Serbia is a better place for women working in technical roles, let's say, than in Germany, because my experience is not like that. During my PhD times, I saw many women in different universities I have collaborated with and laboratories I worked in. I would say that it's less of us in Serbia. It really depends. You know, once you are given an opportunity, it's up to you to show yourself, improve yourself, being a male or a female. And it's up to the company and what the company values actually are. You can be the best worker in the world. If the company doesn't see it, male or female, you are doomed. I cannot say much about mining companies because I have only worked in one. But in the client service, in my company, I'm very, very pleased with the direction the company is going in. For example, in Scandinavia, in Finland, some time ago, our laboratories have had only men working on crushers and mills, until we heard about a private company that was doing the same job, and we went to see what are they doing better than us. And people were shocked because most of the, let's say, gender working on the machines were females. So we changed that and we started employing women. So now in our lab, in labs in Finland, we have both men and women operating the machines. As Belinda was saying, it's very important who is going to represent us women. I'm fortunate enough that I'm outspoken, and I'm fortunate enough that my superiors are listening to me. So I'm trying to have more women in my team, and I'm proud to say that we also have a woman working on the machine. The guys were not too optimistic about her, and even though she proved that she's as capable as they are, they still have a prejudice about her. Time will prove them wrong.
Thank you so much, Milica. And I just would like to add something from my experience when you actually said that you are outspoken. Many years ago, I wouldn't mention the company, I was outspoken about women representation. And majority of the companies I was working for, I was only one female. And my actually, outspoken, and raising the women's right and representations and promotion, it wasn't quite welcome. So I'm really glad, things are changing these days. We do have one
at least in ALS.
Yes, I do have one absolutely brilliant question. I don't know who is it from, but it's actually saying it is fantastic having these conversations relating to gender diversity in mining, but I'm conscious of a lack of men driving these types of conversation. How do you think we can get more men involved in the conversation and championing this initiative? This is a brilliant question, because generally what they do, they actually, the lots of companies are actually trying to sort of like send women to some training, to some courses, to more and more sort of educations, how we need to behave, how do we need like a self-confidence or not. Majority of women, they don't actually have any issue with the self-confidence or training or anything. We are majority of us are highly educated. And this is actually something maybe men actually needs to be sort of like educated, how they can actually get involved in this conversation and how they can become comfortable with actually us having equal opportunities and equal position as they are. Anybody would like to jump in?
Yeah, I can. I think I can add to that. I think a very important role of some of us that have actually had a felt experience through their career. So each of us on this call, and there are many, many, many other women that have been in roles in mining, in manufacturing, in non-traditional roles, and so I think it's not forgetting what those experiences were like. For myself, I still remember the first day, and there's pivotal times throughout that. And I think now that I have moved into a senior leadership role, I feel an immense responsibility to be able to bring that conversation to the table. on behalf of women and or men or other underrepresented groups, but let's talk, about women, that may not be as comfortable in raising concerns or having conversations, or this is how I feel on day one. I've also got a role around having those conversations with men, and so I bring that to the table. If it's not there, then I bring that to the table so that we can have a conversation. And I think that's one part of the role that we can play, and I see more and more of that. I spend less time going to events or courses for women because I think I have a more impactful role when I can have that conversation with men and be an advocate or endorse more thinking and see more male champions of change that are then reflecting upon their own personal experiences. Some of them, I think the biggest reflection is when they see their own daughter maybe want to go into a field, and that reflection is there going, oh, hang on a minute, what would that experience be like for my daughter in my organisation on the drill or underground in the operation? Would I feel comfortable about what that experience would be? So I think there's that reflection as well that happens when people are thinking about their own children coming into mining, for example. So, yeah, I think it is growing. I hear more and more male voices that are champions of change, that are bringing this conversation to the table. And part of it is, because, they want their organisation to better reflect the community that we live in. Part of it is because they have a personal motivation around, the experiences and the opportunities that they want, for their own their own daughters, and part of it is because they just firmly believe that we need this innovation. So I think more male champions is what we need, and there's a role for us to play as senior women leaders.
Thank you so much. One more question for each one of you ladies. What would you actually suggest, or what should be a key message for sort of some change? And then what do you think we should actually say it has changed next year when we meet in Belgrade again? Sanja, would you like to start?
I think nothing is impossible. For one woman to become successful, it's not just a talent important. Important is how a person involve itself in the work and jobs they are doing. The success is there. Doesn't matter if you are a man or a woman. If you got a challenge, if you got a role, you have to go through it and get to the end of it. You have to have a goal and you have to succeed in getting it. I think that's the most important for any person, and of course for women as well.
Exactly. It's just up to what your ambition is. Nothing is impossible. It is maybe harder for us women, but it's achievable. Just don't give up and just go for it. Prove yourself. And we have proven that we are doing a goddamn good job.
It shouldn't be harder, but let's hope actually it's going to be better. Final few words from you, Belinda.
Yeah, so Jasmina, you asked what's a key message that I would like to leave out of this conversation. And I think that is for the participants that we've got on the afternoon. Let's imagine they're all there. It would be just not to make assumptions and to have a dialogue, have a conversation, and whether that is with and individuals within your organisation as a one-on-one, or whether that is as a leadership team. what would be different next year. Well, this is my first conference, so I'm probably not in any position to talk about what might be different next year. But I think how do you build on this conversation next year? And if there was any reflection from those who, are listening, it would be interesting to hear what was taken away. And when back in, the organisation or decision making, if we're talking about succession, talent, promotion, development plans, I'd be interested to have a conversation about what that did. Was there any change from that? Did they see any further opportunity to challenge if people are ready now? And what development plan do we need around that female to be able to move into that role?
Okay,
that
great.
would be an interesting conversation that we may or may not be a part of. But
well, that would be great. I mean, the companies are generally having lots of development plans in practice, but what is really happening in practice is a completely different story. So hopefully it's nothing else we can do, but just sort of like continue to work hard. And then I would like to just close this conversation and hope to see you all personally in Belgrade next year. And I really hope so with all my heart. There's not going to be many more women in mining panels. And I hope that women are going to be just equal part of the mining industry, contributing equally as a man, and we are not going to have very soon any need for women in mining panel. Jagoda, back to you.
This was a real pleasure listening to you and this panel. Fantastic speeches and your experiences, and thank you for sharing that with us. I'm not a miner, I'm not geologist, but this really, what can I say? I really feel that the most important part is actually just to have some goal. It doesn't matter either we are a man or a woman. And as Jasmina said, I would really love not to have any more topics, especially just for women in mining, just to be equal. Either is it a man or a woman in this industry. And let's hope that from now on it will continue like that, and that we will have much, much more equality in this area, especially in mining and geology. And thank you very much, Jasmina. Thank you to your lovely ladies, your panelists. And now, before I close the conference, we will have another break with the commercials. And after that, I will share some very interesting information with all of you. We'll see very soon. Thank you.